MagMongoSlade. Ladies and gentlemen, relatives and friends, this is 3 Count Commentaries. I am your host, MagMongoSlade, and today we're going to talk about CM Punk, Tony Khan, Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, and a now deleted Instagram post, which normally I would wait until all of the information is together, but I decided not to. I decided to just go with it because I think that's enough on its own to have a conversation about. So, it's been a buzz the last few days around Dynamite, which would be the March 22nd episode of Dynamite, that CM Punk might actually be making a return to AEW. There was going to be some terms and conditions and all these sorts of things. It was kind of floating about. So, it came up, and to be quite honest, Alvarez and Meltzer never stopped talking about it. So it came up again, maybe, I don't know when I took this screenshot, I'm sorry. But the quote is from Dave Meltzer. Says, what it says is that he wants back in AEW, he being Punk, which we've already known. Other people have said that too, that he's looking to get back in. It's up to Tony Khan, and Tony's going to make a decision at some point. Now, CM Punk apparently posted a story, well, a comment. It was like, I think it was on Twitter. And it was an interesting comment on Twitter, because Sean Ross Sapp had tweeted out, Dax Harwood tells Fightful.com that in his recent conversations with CM Punk, Punk has said reading Steve Kern's book has made him miss wrestling. And CM Punk tweeted out, great story about Gator and Coco fighting in the locker room, and then Lawler drags them in the office the next day and they squash it. Fascinating. Okay. That was very interesting. Very interesting situation. Gator and Coco fighting in a Gator. I'm guessing that means Steve Kern, because he was Skinner, for those of you who don't know. He legitimately used to like hunt alligators and stuff. Like, that was legit. So the story sounds a lot similar to his situation with the Elite. They get into a fight, then Jerry Lawler kind of starts going to the back and he hashed it out. I'm guessing this was in Memphis if Lawler was there. So Meltzer is talking about it again on the Wrestling Observer newsletter board, which he usually does. He talks about CM Punk constantly on this thing. And Dave Meltzer made this comment. Do you know why they didn't advertise Punk versus Moxley longer and why it had a short build? Because Punk agreed to it. Then AEW got a legal letter saying he wasn't down with it. It wasn't doing it. And they didn't know if he'd come until Tony put his foot down. There are a lot of nice things I can say about him. You could absolutely argue his position on Moxley was correct. But you can't argue he willingly did what he was asked to do in that scenario. So, he's saying that Punk did not do what he was asked to do in reference to Jon Moxley. Now, I'm pretty sure Jon Moxley will not answer this, does not care about this, will not say nothing about this, because he's not, terminally online like most people. That's kudos to Jon Moxley for not caring about shit like that. But this response was given to a fan who was talking about CM Punk in return and how he, chooses to do business and that he did business with Jon Moxley. So Dave Meltzer replied that, there was some issues with the Jon Moxley stuff. Dave Meltzer then continued on the board. In fairness to Punk, he was winning that match in Vegas. He didn't pull a power play to win the title. Tony wanted the title on him then. I'm not at liberty to say, but his own words regarding that match of, quote, Page put in jeopardy the company's first $1 million gate does say something. So they're still debating this issue. Just going on and on and on, and I'm over the CM Punk thing. Y'all know this already. If you follow this channel, I don't need to keep going into that. I was over it when it happened. So, CM Punk goes on Instagram and then types up an Instagram story that he then very, very quickly deleted. But first, what did he actually say? It says, Sigh, I wasn't cleared to come back to wrestle yet. The then plan was to wrestle at the pay-per-view. I sat and listened to Moxley's Rocky 3 idea. I explained how I'd never seen a Rocky movie, and I thought the idea sucked. But if the boss wanted to do it, whatever. He said he wouldn't lose to me. I never experienced someone refusing to lose to me. I just laughed. I asked Tony if this was what he wanted. He said yes. He's the boss, so I said okay. It needed to be cleared first. They kept saying it could be a squash, so I didn't have to be cleared. I scoffed at that. My health is more important. Dave Meltzer is a liar. Jericho is a liar and a stooge. There were plans, but plans always change. But I'll never put a company above my health ever again. So we know that CM Punk was legitimately injured before the squash match with Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley, I guess, was, pitching ideas to Punk, and he pitched his Rocky 3 idea, I guess himself as Clubber Lang, and Rocky as the sort of soft, Rocky Balboa. CM Punk had never seen Rocky and said the idea was stupid. Rocky 3 is anything but stupid, by the way. And that should tell you how much of a dork CM Punk is. Like, I'm a nerd, Me, I like comic books. CM Punk likes comic books. But for Christ's sake, you've never seen Rocky? I mean, I know that's kind of the joke that's floating around the internet right now, that this guy's never seen Rocky, but it's like, literally, you've never seen a Rocky movie? Like, people think that I'm strange because I never saw Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. I've never watched any of that crap. But you've never seen Rocky? I would have seen Rocky by accident. It was on TV so much. So that means you was actively avoiding Rocky. That means you was so much of a dork that a testosterone-filled movie like Rocky, you was dodging that shit like Neo in the Matrix. Rocky used to come on regular TV at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm pretty sure that if you grew up even a little bit poor, you had the most basic of cable, you stumbled across Rocky once or twice. It's ludicrous. That part of the story makes me not want to believe him. That part of the story makes me want to be like, what? You never saw Rocky 3? The great one at that? With Clubber Lang and all that? Come on. So, he then says that Moxley refused to lose to him, which is interesting because I have never heard of Jon Moxley doing that before. Never heard of Moxley pulling in power, because I was actually, one of these people that was giving Jon Moxley credit. He was the kind of guy that you never heard that kind of stuff about. Nobody ever said Moxley refused to work with them. Moxley refused to do business. I never heard that before until now. It was always that Moxley was ready to go far and beyond for business, and then somebody else was like, no. Like when he constantly complained about Brock, and Brock not wanting to do crazy stuff in that WrestleMania match. Now it seems here that he's not interested in doing a job for CM Punk. Well, I'm surprised that CM Punk did the job, in that situation, because usually the response is, if you're not going to lose to me, then I ain't losing to you, and then we're done here. But apparently Punk is not quite Bret Hart. Not quite. Not quite his hero. So then here's another interesting piece. Tony Khan actually thought that it would be a good idea for him to wrestle without being medically cleared. Now, this is going to be something that I said, I need to wait for this. I gotta wait for Tony Khan to respond. Now, something tells me that he probably won't make a public statement on this. It'll probably be a no comment. So that's why I'm doing this video. Otherwise, I would just keep it in the chamber and I'd wait. But something tells me that he's not going to really comment too much on this. The idea that they wanted to keep the match short so CM Punk wouldn't need to be medically cleared. I'm not going to lie to you and say that this is horrible. This is a very terrible, bad thing. It's not. There's plenty of wrestling situations and when a guy goes into a match injured, and so they'll keep the match short. I mean, for Christ's sake, Bruno and Buddy Rogers, their first match when Bruno won the title, Buddy Rogers like had like a heart condition or something like that shortly before that, and they sent him out there anyway, and he just lost to a bear hug in like 8 seconds. He just gave up in a bear hug. So I'm not against if a guy can do just enough to get through the night, and you're not going to try to force him to do 20 minutes, but he'll got to go out there and do 2. Okay. If the guy can do it, okay. I'm not, on the extreme like Buddy Rogers like had a heart attack and then you put him out there anyway. I'm not saying that. But I'm pretty sure CM Punk's injury was a foot injury. Which, if it was a concussion, I'll probably feel differently. If it was some kind of neck, spinal injury, I would feel differently. But since it was a foot injury, I would say, you know what? It didn't really bother him none. And he wasn't going to take that much of a beating. So I'm okay with that. I'm not going to destroy Tony Khan for this. But then again, I'm on a different end of the wrestling spectrum. The people who are Tony Khan is Jesus and would never do anything like this, those people are in shambles right now. All right? Those people who think Tony Khan is different from Vince McMahon, they're absolutely in shambles. All right? They're like, oh my God, I can't believe Tony would do that. That's absolutely something that Vince would do. It's like, it does sound like something Vince would do. It does sound like something Vince would do. Vince would be like, shit, you breathing. You can do the job if you're breathing. But this is why, the business was never really meant to be exposed. So now everybody's looking at Tony Khan all strange because he was a businessman and thought that having Moxley drop Punk on TV, destroy him, get the belt off Punk onto Moxley, would get Moxley hot, would keep people interested, and will hook people for the match at the pay-per-view. That was a genuine idea. And I can understand why he would think that was a good idea. I understand why Punk would think it was a bad idea. Because he's CM Punk. And why would you want to job out CM Punk? Why would you want to do that? But it happened. So, there's a lot of people upset with Punk for doing this. Jericho posted on his Instagram, Matt Hardy yelling, delete, 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 as a way of mocking that CM Punk deleted the post. A lot of people, myself included, fully believe that this information that's being given to Dave Meltzer comes from the Elite or Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho has been a stooge for Dave Meltzer for a long time. This is pretty well known that there's a lot of guys that Meltzer has favored over the years. Jericho is one of them. So I'm not that surprised that Jericho would be randomly involved in this because he's not involved with the booking of the Moxley angle. But Punk apparently thinks that the only place that this could come from was Chris Jericho, and I believe it. I believe it. Jericho has gone on record as saying he didn't really want Punk in AEW anymore. And he's let it be known. Back in December of 2022, there was articles posted from comments that made by Dave Meltzer that Chris Jericho was one of the guys who actually confronted CM Punk after the all-out scrum situation, telling him that he was a locker room cancer and that he didn't want him back. So these two have beef going back to 2014 when Jericho tried to get Punk on his podcast, and Punk felt like Jericho was trying to use him to boost the podcast ratings because he was leaving WWE and wanted to talk about that. But Jericho thought they were friends, and it was a whole thing. It was a whole thing. So Jericho and Punk have a contentious relationship already. I think the real story here, if we dare to create a real story, is that the situation that caused Punk to explode during the all-out scrum is continuing. These guys are feeding information to Meltzer, who is then putting it out there on the internet for other people to lap up and tweet about and talk about, because these guys, how your grandma maybe said that idle hands are the devil's playground. I think the same thing about idle minds. You know, people who have nothing to talk about, you got nothing to discuss, you just create stuff. You know, like your brain doesn't just shut off. It never actually just shuts off. Even when you're asleep, it's still, doing stuff. That's why you dream and have nightmares. So if you have nothing to talk about, and people are constantly asking you maybe about what could happen, you're inclined to come up with stuff. You're inclined to talk about stuff. You're inclined to let things leak. And to me, all this CM Punk stuff, it's the same thing with Vince McMahon. All of this stuff comes from it being too quiet on the wrestling front. There's not enough chitter chatter, not enough drama for the people who want clicks for a living. It's not enough. So you have to generate. And when you're generating, sometimes you might catch a fish. This is one of those times where Dave Meltzer caught a fish. He put out a statement that was probably close enough to true where that pissed Punk off, and now he's putting out another comment that he probably wishes he hadn't now. It's been out for maybe an hour or two while I waited for, Tony Khan or Chris Jericho or somebody to respond. I know John Moxley's not responding because he doesn't really do Twitter. Will he do a shoot interview or an article or something like that talking about it? Maybe. But he doesn't really do Twitter, so I don't really see him tweeting out some out of character about CM Punk. I really don't see it. And Punk is pretty much off Twitter too. He hasn't been on Twitter since, I think December or something like that. So you're talking about a guy who his idle mind, because he has nothing to talk about, but people come to him for information. They want to ask him questions. He wants to give them answers. And if he's been having conversations with Tony Khan or Chris Jericho or whoever, he's going to be, the more you people ask him about it, the more he's going to be inclined to discuss it. And the more he's inclined to discuss it, the more these kinds of things come out. And the more these kind of things come out, the more Punk is proven right. Like, you guys get one side of the story, and then you obsess over it and you pore over it for days on end. You create this situation. Now, in terms of what to do from now on, well, Dave Meltzer's story is at least secondhand. We don't know how many hands this story went through before he got it, so it's at least secondhand. Punk was at least in the room. All right, he was at least in the room. Moxley was in the room. Tony Khan was in the room. Those are the people we know for sure was in the room because Punk said so. Now, we know John Moxley is probably going to be sending his wife text messages about sex or something like that, which I give a thumbs up to. He's an adult. He can go do whatever he wants. He doesn't give a damn about this shit. Tony Khan's not likely to say anything of the sort. He's not going to talk about it at all. Again, no comments all up and through this joint. But if you're a fan and you're saying, well, I hope CM Punk comes back, what do you think now? Because he still has a contentious relationship with Chris Jericho. So even before you even talk about Kenny Omega and all those guys, he still has the issue with Jericho. So as much as FTR bald and the rest of these dudes running around talking about how CM Punk was so nice and bought them coffee and brought them donuts, well, he can't shut the fuck up for 10 minutes without getting himself and getting the heat on the company. I don't think, he's worth it. Really. Now, what I mean by is he worth it is clearly there's a large chunk of wrestling fans who are willing to pay to see CM Punk if he was on the show. I 100% believe that, but I don't think that, can he grow their audience? I think we've seen the maximum of their audience when he came in. I think that was the maximum of the audience. Now they want to get back there because they have slid quite a bit. Then, yeah, they need him to come back. But the question is, who the hell is going to want to work with him? Outside of FTR and maybe a couple of young guys who aren't really all that, stable on the roster, like Powerhouse Hobbs and Ricky Starks and a couple of other guys. Who that's on stable footing is willing to work with CM Punk in the long run? He's already did his long-term story with MJF. Who else is there? Jericho doesn't like him. Jericho has plenty of smaller, younger guys in his circle. The Sammy Guevaras, and all of those dudes. He can't work with any of them because they're Jericho stooges, and Jericho's a stooge. So he's in a situation where, okay, most of the roster are friends of the elite. Those who aren't are buddies with Jericho and in Jericho's inner circle. He has a couple of people who like him. But even if you want to say, oh, Britt Baker's one of them, well, he can't work with Britt Baker. You know, what is he going to do? Be her manager? She's going to be his manager? Who's he going to work with? Who's he going to get in the ring and make some money with? I can see, you know, the egos of certain people having the attitude where they say, look, Punk needs to be here. We don't need him here. And at the end of the day, I see that being the AEW position. That while it's nice to have Punk there, we don't need him. Punk made a comment, ruffled some feathers. People are very upset. Let's get into this because I saw some choice pieces of business. This one is from the notes page. Somebody, somewhere decided to go into the notes page of their phone and type out the following message. CM Punk has always been one of my favorites since he debuted in the WWE, but this shit is pathetic. As a fan, you always want to see your heroes do what they do best, but fuck! This man is problematic. AEW was fine before him, and as much as I want to see him back, he's too stubborn to admit that he's wrong. It's so annoying because I was so happy with the idea he'd be coming back soon, but at this point, just stay away. You want to be childish? Then please stay away from wrestling. If it makes you this unhappy, then just take your ball and go home again. If a lot of wrestlers from both AEW and WWE have the same opinion on this man, then it says it all. CM Punk has always been one of my heroes, easily in my top 5 of all time, but as a fan, this sucks to see. If he can't just move on from this, then stay away and never come back. I still love for him to fix this and come back because, damn it, it will always be I love CM Punk. Oh my Lord, what on earth? What on earth? Why would you type that? So much conflicting feelings. Stay away. I love you. Stay away. Go away, please. It's such a drama queen. What in the world? Jesus Christ. He says, a lot of people wants to find a reason to hate CM Punk. What he said on his Instagram story is nothing but straight facts. It's true what wisdom people says. People will always find a reason to hate you no matter what. The problem is, I see nothing but facts, what CM Punk said. Here's the thing about facts, for the record. Facts can be independently proven. Something is a fact when it's independently proven. CM Punk's statement has not been independently proven. Not thus far. So, it ain't quite facts yet. Not quite facts yet. Pepsi Phil may have redeemed himself to me. Well, along with that, I guess that's all that matters. Rocky is an overrated franchise. I was about to say some unkind things about this young man here. Let's just move on before I say something mean about this guy. Fuck him, not for anything wrestling related, but for never seeing a Rocky movie. Good Lord. I feel the same way though, I'm not gonna lie to you. Not seeing Rocky, I mean, just come on. How could you function in society without ever seeing Rocky? It's a quintessential American story. What's wrong with you? What about this makes people think he's going back to AEW? Why do they always think everything is a work? Well, it's wrestling, that's why. But I haven't seen anybody say this was a work because it wouldn't have been deleted if it was a work. Fuck Chris Jericho is all I got to say. Well, important. That's important. An important message brought to you by a random Twitter guy. I'm pretty sure when Jon Moxley suggested the Rocky idea to CM Punk, he was referring to the part where Rocky requested be cut open. All right, here's one that's pretty interesting. I'll take CM Punk's word. You can have whatever unfavorable view of him you want, but being dishonest has never been his game. If anything, being brutally honest would get him in hot water. Well, I wouldn't say that he's not dishonest. I would say he is somewhat honest to a degree. But I believe it just because it's firsthand information. I'm more likely to believe firsthand information than hearsay. But even I can look at this and tell that there's some things about it that are not exactly things that I believe, like right off the bat. So that's just something to consider. Jon Moxley literally refused to lose to CM Punk. I don't see people giving Moxley shit. If it was Punk, y'all would be shitting on him. Health should always come first, no matter the sport. Punk shouldn't have been wrestling without being cleared. I stand with CM Punk. Oh, Lord. Oh, boy. Somebody says, yes, but you see, this is his side of the story. Does this make sense? Does this sound like something the, quote, locker room leader Mox would do? Sure doesn't. Does it sound like ego Punk would do? Sure does. Oh, boy. Oh, God. Oh, my goodness. That's something. Here's another one. Controversy follows Punk. Controversy doesn't follow Mox. Make of that what you will. Yeah, because Mox knows how to shut the fuck up. You know, that's the thing. He knows when to be quiet. At least publicly. He may have a big mouth backstage and get himself in some trouble like he did in WWE when he pissed off the wrong people or something like that. Maybe he cussing on TV. You know, it wasn't really a good idea. Maybe he has low impulse control. But I could tell you this. You know, Moxley never been in this much hot water. He never got himself in this kind of drama. I always kind of saw him and CM Punk as a similar kindred spirit. Like they would both get a kick out of old school wrestling. They would watch, that kind of stuff together. It turns out that Punk is more on the side of FTR bald, which his mustache feels real ironic right now, that FTR bald. It seems like he grew that joint out of a dare all of a sudden. Here's another one. Everywhere Punk goes, there is some type of issue. It is not safe to say the problem is Punk, not everywhere else. Well, I think there's a certain handsome, humorous YouTuber that has been saying that for approximately 2 years. I don't, what can I say? Anyway, the more I hear about Moxley, the more I understand Lesnar not wanting to do any of that bum's ideas. Right? Wait a minute now. If you do Rocky 3 correctly, it's a great wrestling story. Hell, Rocky is a hell of a wrestling story. It's basically, simple storytelling. It's very simple, and it's to build up to the fight. There's only usually one fight in the entire movie, and you tell the entire movie to build up to that one fight. That's the Rocky strategy. Unlike other boxing movies, Rocky is not really about boxing. It's about people. The fighting is not just about overcoming an opponent. It's usually about overcoming what that opponent represents. And, in a good wrestling story, that's the same idea. You're not, because you're not really winning and losing anything in a wrestling story because it's not real. But you can defeat an idea. You can overcome an idea. You can overcome a certain situation or a certain problem. And that works in wrestling. And it works in Rocky. All right. Tony Khan wanted Punk to come back while still injured so he could be squashed by Jon Moxley. I can't get over that. It's insane on the face of it. I'd be pissed as well if I were Punk. Well, he held on to that for a little while. I think he left in August of last year. Sitting on that one for a long time, I know that probably bubbled in his guts. Like, I gotta say this. I gotta say it. And then there it is. I love how some people are not paying any attention to Punk and Moxley, like this guy. The apex of Jericho's career was against Omega in Japan. Everything since then has been downhill. Complete garbage. Like, wow. Hit the apex of his career. Here your boy Solomonster. As I said when Brawl Out first happened, there is no scenario I can see in which CM Punk returning to AEW does anything but cause more drama than the company doesn't need. Otherwise, this will keep happening. These people cannot coexist together. This is a solid take. and probably the take that I that I would hate that I have. There's so many factions in AEW. Who is like again? CM Punk has a small section of underutilized talent that have his back. There's a large swath of people there that are supporters of the Elite, and then there's the Jericho faction. Then there's the other little zebras who come and go, who probably have no allegiance to anybody, because either A, English isn't their first language, therefore they don't care, or B, they're just there for a short amount of time, and then they'll be floating off to NXT or Impact or something like that in a little bit anyway. The idea that Punk will have like a tremendous amount of backstage support, I don't see that. I don't know why that would be, why anybody would think that he does. Just because FTR Bald goes on TV and talks about it, I don't see why anybody would do that. Triple H on the phone with CM Punk right now, like, listen, Phil, I wouldn't let them play with my name over there like that if I was you. Woo-wee. Punk, you're a hell of a talent. We appreciate you, but the way those guys were talking about you over there, I wouldn't put up with that. You did a lot in this business. A huge star. It's a tough thing to move forward, but you got to move on. So. Yeah, I could see Triple H maybe sending CM Punk a text message with all the uhs and everything too. So instead of trying to potentially fix things regarding the press conference and Brawl Out, Punk goes on Instagram and throws Tony, Mox, and the company again under the bus. I love Punk, but I don't really see this Instagram story as something that needs to be said right now. Look, Punk is one of those guys where telling the truth at an inconvenient time seems right up his alley. That seems right around the time of CM Punk shooting himself in the foot. Yeah, that's a Punk. That's the feel I know. Trying to fucking up stuff just as things is going well. Hell yeah, that's Phil. I know that Phil. Here's a good one. I have a hard time believing someone who's been such a pathological liar for most of his career. Things are never his fault. He's the poor victim. Yes, sirree. Just like his boy FTR Bald with the ironic mustache. Poor old CM Punk, always put upon. Always, he's Charlie Brown. He just wants to do good. But he's just trying to kick the ball and Lucy keeps moving it. God, how do y'all not notice this until now? How do y'all not notice that CM Punk is always the victim until now? It wasn't me. I didn't do nothing wrong. I was always right. I'm a good boy. See my halo? You see it floating over my head? I didn't do nothing wrong. Oh boy. Nah, sorry. But I will always love CM Punk. A petty, petty man. But what a petty, petty man. Go on, Phil. Ugh. I'm pretty sure that was a full-grown adult man that wrote that. I love Punk. I think he has been in the right on a lot of this. But throughout it, I have also thought to myself that his version of events is Mr. Burns in court, saying Bart swerved repeatedly in front of his car when he was run over. Woo. Here's somebody with a Moxley profile picture. Mox is not the type of dude who just, quote, refused to lose for no reason if this is even true. How many motherfuckers had he put over and helped train in that company? He's selfless as fuck. So for this to be happening, I'm side-eyeing Punk for it. Yeah, I got the side eye for you, Punk. I'm looking at you like, what you doing over there? What you here for, huh? What you doing over there? Whatever. Here's a response. Over it. Either work something out or everyone go their separate ways. Either way, shut up. I tried to read it as written. There was a lot of little U's and then a lot of upper U's. It's quite a few. Who literally has a problem with Mox? Like, be for real. Yeah. Yeah. Fragile ego, fragile body, weak mind, weak spirit. Yeah, I've heard that before. I heard that one before. If John fucking Moxley has a problem with you, you are the problem. Period. Wow, I did not expect there to be so many pro-Moxley people on this damn internet. Here's one that's interesting. I do not believe that Punk, a man who has worked companies with the likes of Austin Aries, Low Key, Teddy Hart, and Triple H, has never had anyone refuse to lose to him before Mox. That is a good point. He was in WWE for a little while too. That's a good point. There's a lot of egotistical assholes in WWE who probably would have refused to do a job to CM Punk. So, I don't know. Maybe this is the first time somebody ever told him to his face that they refused to lose to him. Maybe that's what he meant. That, you know, this is the first time somebody ever told him to his face. Maybe somebody would have politicked and gone over him. But being flat out told, flat-footed, I ain't losing to you. I ain't doing no jobs to you, buddy. Yeah, that's kind of a smack to the face. That's complete and total disrespect, but it is what it is. Here's another one. Honestly, this just makes me sad. Dude was worked to the bone and a half to death playing WWE politics. And when a capable competitor to WWE finally did come around, he ended up falling into a completely different political battlefield. Yeah, it's called pro wrestling. That's what it's called. Pro wrestling, in which people decide who wins and loses. Yeah, there's going to be politics involved in that. I hate to break it to you. I know that's going to bother you some, but it is what it is. Here's the one. The way he runs to social media is such a bitch move. He wants to come back, but is shitting on Moxley and Jericho now? Do a fucking interview. Apologize. Or just shut the fuck up already. I really do hope it's a work at the end of the day, but it just makes Punk look like such a whiny bitch. He's not. I'm telling you, Tony Khan probably has a gag order on this guy. And this thing kind of slipped out. But that's pretty much it. You know, again, Punk is a bursting volcano. He's leaking lava, even if he's not splitting it all over the place. To be quite honest, I'm surprised, you know, he let this much out. But it's certainly more to be had. I can guarantee you that. And once he gets out from under this contract, I'm pretty sure he's going to let it fly if he don't, you know, sign a non-disclosure. Which is probably why he's still under contract, because he probably won't sign a non-disclosure. Oh, Moxley sucks, and Dick Riders would defend that pea-brain ass Booker no matter what. Ooh, yikes, pea-brained. I just called him a cokehead. I ain't saying the guy had a small brain. I wouldn't go that far. I wouldn't presume his biological disadvantages. I would just say it is what it is. All right, here's one. Thank God Punk called out Meltzer and Jericho, because he's 100% right on that. Dave Meltzer is a joke, who usually has nothing interesting to say, and Jericho's definitely an AEW stooge now. Jericho's been a stooge since the jump. Jericho's never been anything other than an AEW stooge since the company came up. He has been the flag bearer, the front man, the guy who wants them to beat Raw in the ratings. Jericho didn't just become a AEW stooge. He's been that. He's been that for a long time. All right. Punk is so messy, but having someone wrestle when they're not medically cleared is crazy. Well, guess what? Welcome to wrestling. That happens. It happens a lot. I'm not saying it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. I'm saying it happens a lot. And it happens a lot. This one's a killer. I, for one, am shocked the same company that let Matt Hardy continue the match after scrambling his brains at All Out 2020 would make Punk wrestle without a medical clearance. Oh, I forgot about that. Hey, you remember that time Tony Khan was arguing with Reby Hardy on Twitter about that? Oh, what a shit show that was. Oh boy, that was something else. Matt is clearly half dead on his feet, and Reby is on Twitter she is geeked on Twitter, and she's out of it. And Tony Khan's like, no, that's not happening. No, it's not happening. Just shut up, please. Be quiet, please. She was so mad at Tony Khan. I'm surprised that Matt Hardy still works there, and she didn't cut all the tires to his car. Here's a boring comment. I don't like Punk. I don't dislike Punk. However, this seems like an arrangement that needs to come to an end. If it doesn't, and he comes back to AEW, I'm good either way. So you have no feelings about it one way or the other. And if he comes back, if he doesn't, it's like, okay, I guess. Hold on. Somebody said this could be a work, could be a shoot. It's sometimes hard to tell with AEW as they do it so well. However, Britt Baker wrestled a whole summer with a broken wrist, and Pac did the whole best of 7 series with a broken nose. So, those were different injuries, though. And it kind of goes into my point that, guys who wrestle injured is kind of what happens. It happens. It's wrestling. Punk is one of their biggest draws. Releasing him would be the worst idea. Tony Khan should have handled this problem immediately. Pulled all of his employees into a room and squashed it. It's business ethics 101. I learned it first day of business school. TK can still do this. I don't think so. For starters, they're not employees. They're independent contractors. Therefore, they can turn down jobs if they want to. They're not under any sort of contract to mediate, unless they are. It might be in their contract that they have to mediate any type of problems. But for the most part, these guys don't want to do business with each other. It is what it is. You should have fixed it before it got to that point, if we're being honest. The ball had to roll so far downhill that it had to cross the goal line before CM Punk even blown up. So I'm guessing Tony Khan likely heard whispers of this whole situation before it really blew up. He just, took his sweet ass time getting to it, or maybe he did. He just didn't do so with a stern enough hand. But it's way out of control. Now, you can't get these guys in the room to talk now. These dudes are slamming each other on Instagram and everything now. They're kind of going too far, Here's another one. Bro, the arenas aren't getting hijacked with CM Punk chants this time. Pack it in and grab a muffin, Phil. Wow. That's not nice. It's true, though. A noticeable lack of CM Punk chants in AEW. Noticeable lack of CM Punk chants anywhere now. They're probably going to start popping up at like Wrestle Circus or some shit. Maybe. I guess. Here's one. Does Punk calling out Jericho there mean he figured out the Elite weren't the ones leaking the cult stuff to the sheets? Or is it still on site for them too? Guess what? I'm pretty sure CM Punk has more than one set of enemies. I'm pretty certain that the Elite were doing that because they're friends with Colt Cabana. But I'm also pretty sure he's got beef with Chris Jericho going back 8 years. How long? It's almost 10 years now, almost. And it's been a long time. So it's weird. This is funny. Honestly, the best part about CM Punk is he hasn't changed. He's still the same fucking punk asshole 20-something who broke into the business. Literally the same dude. And I love it. I wouldn't have him any other way. Because sincerity of character, makes him him. You would think that a guy was 40 would change a little bit from when he was, 22. Now he's 44 or something like that. I would think he would have grown up a little bit. You would learn a little decorum, just a little bit. Some forced growth. You can't be the same person you were when you were in your 20s and your 40s because people are going to perceive you differently. And it also depends on who you're targeting that stuff at. Now he's targeting it at people who an entire company was built around. The company was built around these guys, and Punk is now laying it into them. And these guys the crowd is split reactions. Now they're like, I don't know. I don't like this guy that much anymore. Which is saying a lot because CM Punk created this situation. A bunch of entitled, selfish, assholes from the independents get together and they can start running a wrestling company. They are no better than Shawn Michaels and Hulk Hogan and anybody else. That's the humor in all of it. You got all the indie assholes who swear to God it would never be them if they were in that position. Then they get in that position and it is them. This is a particularly brutal one that kind of continues the same line of thought that I just had. Remember a few months back when everyone was saying, quote, AEW's got to be careful. They're going to be drowned out by CM Punk chants. And then the only CM Punk chant that gained any traction was fuck CM Punk. Yeah, the industry changed. The kids grew up. You've been seen. Yep. Everybody who was a super fan in 2012, they're kind of looking at it now like, oh my goodness. Ooh. And, you know, it is what it is. I'm not surprised at all that people are like this. Thankfully, I was an adult then. I'm an adult now. And I can see through this stuff because I felt like I was seeing through it before. But hey, welcome to the team. All right, I'm about to stand up for Dave Meltzer a little bit here. This says, do not believe anything you hear from Meltzer or Brian Alvarez on AEW News, quote unquote. Those two are so compromised it's not even funny, especially Dave. He only reports the Jericho Elite side of every story because that's the only side he wants people to know about. Well, this is, I think, incorrect. I think Meltzer reports the only side that will talk to him. That has been the media thing for a long time. Either people don't talk to you because A, they don't know you. B, they don't trust you. So Meltzer has been in the business for a long time. He gets, information from different sources, but he has favorite sources, favorite nation status. So some people know this, other people don't. So if they see that Meltzer is talking somewhat intelligently about something, if he can actually get the words out, they figure the other party who talks to Meltzer is involved with this, therefore they don't trust him. And people naturally don't really trust journalists because they can filter what you say. It's why, in recent years, people have stopped doing live interviews or over the phone interviews or whatever with journalists, because journalists will then chop up that interview into ways that they want it. Meltzer is no different. I'm not saying that he would do something like that. What I'm saying is he's a filter. Whenever you have something to say and you say it through a filter, they're going to filter out certain things. So there may be certain ways these stories are told that Meltzer then changes to be more favorable to certain people because these are the people who are talking to him. He's getting their perspective. If Punk was in one ear and Jericho was in another ear, maybe these stories will actually come across a little bit less biased. But because these stories come across almost so heavily leaning towards the Jericho, Young Bucks or baby faces, it's because those are the only guys who talk to him. Jericho's been talking to him for years, and the Young Bucks named a move after him. They're the best friends. They like this, fingers crossed. I got my fingers crossed. That they like that. Oh, here's another one. Jon Moxley carried professional wrestling on his back for 3 years, while Phil showed up, collected the fattest paycheck, then got hurt. How is he going to say the idea Mox has sounds dumb? Guy hasn't been inside a ring for years. He's not in the position to be a fucking critic. What? He's talking about his body. I'm sorry, but I have a right to critique things that go on with my body. Sorry. What the hell is wrong with you? Yeah, I was I'm gonna knock you out and I may chew on your bones a little bit. You ain't got no problem with that, do you? You're like, what? Like, what? There ain't no problem with that. Like, what the hell are you talking about? I'm about to let you just do whatever you want to me. My foot hurts, dude. Look at my foot. It hurts. Oh, God. All right. We're going to try to wrap this up pretty soon. Punk attempted to sell that Jon Moxley was trying to politic on him rules so hard. That man saw Cornette fans support him even though he is unequivocally wrong and said, quote, let me try and get one over on the most giving man in wrestling that nobody has ever bashed. Yeah, I can say that. Nobody really has ever gone on record as saying Moxley was a problem, a headache. Some people just say, he's a little opinionated, a little bit of the attitude issue, a little bit of a rebel. But, refusing to do business, never heard that. I've never heard that. And I've never even seen anybody mention anything like that. So, I mean, that does jump out at me like a sore thumb, So, it's really weird. I was thinking about wrapping this thing up, and then I stumbled across an account that is dedicated to hating Jon Moxley. Hashtag fuck Jon Moxley. Moxley is the worst wrestler in the world. Who the fuck is he to tell somebody I refuse to lose to you? Fuck Moxley. Ooh. You sheesh. John Moxley doesn't have good enough wrestling experience to be telling anybody who the fuck he is and isn't listening to. Fucking idiot. And I agree, Chris Jericho is an idiot and a stooge, and so is Meltzer. I'm sorry, Renee, but I hate your fucking husband. He is so complacent with not being a good wrestler. People shit on Kenny Omega, but I'll always put on Omega before Moxley. I hate John Moxley with a passion. His nonsensical fucking garbage matches. Fuck John Moxley. If anything, Punk should have said, I'm not losing to you. Fuck you, at John Moxley, you garbage-ass deathmatch idiot jackass. Can't wait for you to fucking retire, and this is coming from somebody who can't stand CM Punk. Wow! What did John Moxley do? Did he snort all your coke? Did he have sex with your wife? He drink your last bit of orange juice out of the refrigerator? What happened? Why would you dedicate your life now to hating John Moxley? Why would you do this? Why? Friends, relatives, why would this happen? Somebody explain to me why you would dedicate so much of your time to hating John Moxley. Yo. Yo. And then Buddy just starts posting pictures of like meatloaf. I'm talking like the food meatloaf. Like pictures of Soulja Boy and Stone Cold Steve Austin. After going on these rambling, insane rants about John Moxley and how he can't wait for him to retire and all this kind of stuff. I don't know, man. This guy needs a psych ward. But, so maybe I do too, because I'm spending so much time on this stuff. All right, let's wrap it up with the great Brian Last, who started tweeting about this almost the moment that it dropped. His response, nice to see Punk finally defend himself. Hope we get to see it a little more. When people are set out and determined to fuck with you, you always need to make sure they understand who does the fucking and do it with facts. Then he says, if I'm Punk, I'm at my wit's end with Tony Khan. He says the big question coming out of all of this: are AEW wrestlers, including their top star, been asked to wrestle when they are not medically cleared? How many times has this happened, and to who? Good questions. Good questions all. But of course, we know Brian Last is in the tank for CM Punk. He's a Cornette guy. And Cornette and his entire network of people are so far underwater for CM Punk, they can't see nothing but his balls dangling over their foreheads. It's really bad do. Okay? But I couldn't wrap this thing up. Haven't seen Brian Last. I will give him the great honor of being last. So let's wrap this up. Thank you, everybody. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later. Peace out.